A Chicago Bears move to Indiana appears to be at the goal line. Big news this morning. Our entire CHGO Bears team is here on emergency pod to react to the news. We get going right now. This is an emergency edition of the CHGO Bears podcast. We are presented by Xfinity. Welcome in a busy morning with the Chicago Bears, the state of Indiana, the state of Illinois, a lot of things coming together, and a Bears move to Indiana appears closer to reality, potentially even at the goal line. Welcome in. I'm Adam Hogue. Adam Johns is here. Greg Braggs Jr. representing the state of Indiana is here. And Mark Carman representing the state of California, actually, on his vacation in San Diego, is joining us as well.
Well, I couldn't miss this one. I am nauseous that I'm having to do this one, like emergency pod. I'd call this a nightmare pod because it feels awful close. So thank you for letting me pop in here for a couple of minutes in the middle of my vacation, which is ending prematurely, but we won't talk about that. Regardless of that, Hope, can you just get us up to date on why we're sitting here right now, please? Because I just want to make sure that I understand everything that's happening.
Yeah, it's pretty wild what's transpired. You know, we did a show yesterday on CHGO Bears where I told you guys over the next 24, 48 hours, something was going to happen here, either swinging back towards Illinois or all the way to Indiana, because there were meetings yesterday between the Bears and the governor's office. Then there was this committee hearing, this finance committee hearing I'm talking about Illinois now, that was on the schedule for 8 a.m. today. And this mega projects bill that was supposed to get the Bears the tax certainty they're looking for in Arlington Heights was on the agenda, but as I reported, was not guaranteed to be called on. I woke up this morning to information that the bill was not going to be called on, shortly followed by this committee hearing altogether was canceled, not even happening. Just minutes later, we realized that there's this Ways and Means Committee in hearing in Indiana, where they not only are discussing this amended Senate Bill 27, which is what they need in Indiana to pass to be able to get the Bears there, but every single person in this 24-0 vote to amend this bill was just talking like this is a done deal. The Bears are coming to Indiana. We got them. This is happening. The speaker announced that the Bears are willing to commit to the rest of it will be funded by a bond issuance. This gets really into the weeds, but a tax in Hammond and funding in Lucas. Basically, it's similar to Lucas Oil Stadium. All of this coming together this morning while the Bears simultaneously release a statement on their end indicating that they're all in and saying that this is the most significant, movement that they've had. I'm paraphrasing.
Adam, I'm like Carm here. I have just so many questions, and you've been on top of this from the start. And some of the commentary that I'm still seeing, well, whether it's in Twitter or just some of my text messages, is the Bears, are they still playing poker? Are they still trying to make a giant bluff out of this? Like, what would you say to that side of the argument at this point? And like, what yard line do you think the Bears are at right now, theoretically, if they are going to be scoring here in Indiana?
Yeah, I mean, and hang on one second here, guys, as I got to put my computer here on Do Not Disturb, because as you can imagine, my phone is blowing up, which is why if you heard me cutting in and out there, that was why, because I was getting a phone call in the middle of
breaking news, man.
Well, I apologize for that. Anyway, Yeah, I mean, look, I would say that this thing is at the goal line. So what still needs to be done is, and I was going to pull up the statement this morning as well, because I think the wording here from the Bears is important, where they say the passage of Senate Bill 27 would mark the most meaningful step forward in our stadium planning efforts to date. We are committed to finishing the remaining site-specific necessary due diligence to support our vision to build a world-class stadium near the Wolf Lake area in Hammond, Indiana. The governor, Mike Braun in Indiana, said something similar. Basically, like, the framework of the deal is pretty much done. It's not quite at the finish line, and they still got to do the due diligence at the stadium site to make sure that this is, essentially the most viable option. And so if you're hoping for a Hail Mary from Illinois here, here's the comp. In 1999, Robert Kraft and the New England Patriots were in Connecticut. They had a deal signed with the governor of Connecticut to move the Patriots to Hartford. This thing was a done deal, or at least as close to a done deal as possible. And a couple months later, there were some issues with the stadium site. There was talks of contamination at the site, and at the same time, a better deal from the state of Massachusetts to get a new stadium in Foxborough at the same time. Kraft pulled it, and they went back to they went back to Foxborough. Now, could that technically happen here? Potentially. People like Carm would certainly be hoping so. But from what I was told, and you also pay attention to what's happening here with the state of Illinois, and I think that this is also newsworthy this morning, because Matt Hill, who is the deputy chief of staff of communications for Governor Pritzker in Illinois, just tweeted 27 minutes ago, Illinois was ready to move this bill forward. After a productive 3-hour meeting yesterday, the Bears leaders requested that they paused the hearing that was scheduled for this morning to make further tweaks to the bill. And then this morning, they were surprised to see a statement lauding Indiana and ignoring Illinois. So this is contentious right now between Illinois and the Bears. And so for it to reverse course here at the last minute, it just does not feel like, Johnsy, that's where this momentum is headed.
Okay, so here, let's just give a couple thoughts that are roaming around in my head. Number one, when the whole Arlington Heights versus Chicago thing was being floated back and forth, and the people that I was in contact with, and some on the Bears side, there was frustration. I said, well, why don't you bring in another state? It was my question at the time. And the answer was, well, we might have to do that, okay? And then they went and they did that. And now I said at the time that the chance that Illinois is going to be able to give the Bears a better deal than what Indiana is going to offer is very unlikely, even though they own the land. They are going to give them, Indiana is going to give them a sweetheart deal, which we've seen with, many other NFL franchises. And to me, that's where we're at here. And now, you just teed up with something that's even more interesting. Like, how angry are the Bears at the state? Which, like, I don't care what you do now. I'm going to put up the middle finger and head out the door, because it should never have gotten to this point. And I'm not reversing course at this point, because we've gotten this deal. Whatever you can offer me, it ain't going to be better. And I'm not even interested anymore, because that's what that almost sounds like. So, and look, and then, bringing it back to the fans, look, you go to Indiana, Oompa Loompa, you just kind of, you had an excellent point. You go to Indiana and you win, no one cares. It's great. You raise ticket prices 31% in the last 3 years. You haven't, you got one playoff win to show for it. Like that's an insane increase. But no one will care if you go and win. You go to Indiana and you suck, which hopefully is not going to happen for a long time now, but it will matter. It's not going to be.
Well, and the stadium design will matter too, Carm. I mean, if you build a crap stadium and it's in Indiana, right, it's not gonna go well.
Right. So I mean, my thing, like, look, the song Pride and Joy of Illinois. I mean, I'm already singing it to myself today. Pride and joy of Illinois, we play in Indiana, hoo-ha, or whatever the hell I'm going to come up with. Like, it won't, the song won't matter. The song doesn't matter for the Cubs either. And catch it all on WGN. You catch none of it on WGN. And people still go to Cubs games. Like, the song and all that stuff, it's irrelevant. However, as far as people going to your games, and maybe it won't matter. Maybe they'll just travel across, and even if you live in Fox Lake, like in Hoagland, you'll cross the Skyway. You won't be able to take the Metro. All these things, maybe they'll just do it because it's so much ingrained in your family. But my sense is, if you suck, it will matter. And nobody, by the way, nobody wants this. Anybody in Indiana, Bears fans, I don't think they want it. Braggs is one of those people. They don't want it. Nobody wants this, but they're making a business deal. Period. End of story. Which is somewhat nauseating, but also somewhat, I get it. It's a business. It's big business.
Have you guys had an opportunity to read the statement from Mayor McDermott? Because I can, if you want. Go for it.
I heard what was said in the hearing, but no, I've not seen the statement.
So he goes on to say, this is from Mayor McDermott, who told the House Ways and Means Committee members this morning. This is a once-in-a-generation opportunity. Hammond is ready to partner with the state of Indiana, the Chicago Bears, and will do whatever it takes to make this project a success and to welcome the Bears to their new home. The move by the state of Indiana and the Bears tells the rest of the country that Indiana is not just keeping up, it's leading. And that's from Mayor McDermott. He goes on to say, the amendment details the creation of a Northwest Indiana Stadium Authority, Northwest Indiana Stadium Board, as well as allowing the enactment of a Northwest Indiana Stadium Development District and Northwest Indiana Professional Sports Development Area to be located in Hammond. This legislation sets the framework to get a stadium built. Hammond is ready and situated well to become the Bears' new home, and I can't wait to get to work to make this happen. This is a big win for Northwest Indiana, not a bad way to celebrate 219 Day, as today is February 19th, 219, and the region, Northwest Indiana, is the area code 219. And just as somebody that is born and raised, lived my entire life, all 40 years in Northwest Indiana, it is such a cross of emotions right now. I obviously am excited for Northwest Indiana. This is transformational of what this means for our area. We are the forgotten county of Indiana. We have always felt like Indiana does not respect us. Like, they look at us like we're Illinois. And Illinois and Chicago have never looked at us like we are Chicago. But in the reality, our area is within the Chicago metropolitan area. And so we identify with Chicago. As crazy as that sounds, we feel we are more Chicago than we are Indiana in Northwest Indiana. So I'm a proud region rat, as we call each other. But I'm also a proud Bears fan. And as Carm said, the pride and joy of Illinois, the idea that they're going to move across state lines. You can still see the skyline from Hammond, Indiana. It's closer than Arlington Heights. I drive past it every morning to go to the studio. I can get from Wolf Lake to where we currently tailgate at the corner of Wabash and Cermak in 15 minutes if I'm driving fast enough. It's not far away. But this is just something that is shell-shocking. And I think the other aspect of this is we've seen blueprints from Gary and their 3 proposed places they'd put it. We've seen a proposed blueprint from Portage, Indiana. But we've yet to see any kind of plan and blueprint from Hammond. And if you've been following Mayor McDermott on his Facebook page, he has been kind of hinting that he's waiting in the weeds. And if you know anything about Mayor McDermott, he is aggressive. He is somebody that's brought, a lot of different entertainment aspects to Wolf Lake. They have concerts every summer that bring headline names that you would almost at the time laugh at. How is he bringing Lil Wayne to Wolf Lake? It felt out of place. And now you're telling me one of the most historic franchises in sports is coming to Hammond. It's still surreal to even visualize.
Yeah. And also I think Just so people are clear that might not actually know where this stadium site is going to be, and we don't actually know exactly. Like I'm trying to look on the map, this Wolf Lake area. We've all driven through there because the Indiana Toll Road goes right. If you've ever driven Indiana into Indiana from Illinois and the Indiana Toll Road 90, there's that spot where there's water on both sides of the highway. That's Wolf Lake on your left, and to the right of that water on your right, as you're as you're headed eastbound on I-90, is actually Chicago. Like that is it's Chicago is right there. That is not just Illinois. That is Chicago, the east side of Chicago that some Chicagoans don't even know exists. So, but where exactly along that water they are going to be building this, we don't know yet. That's all going to still come out here. But really, this is not that far away. It is technically closer to downtown Chicago than the Arlington Heights property.
It's not just technically from a distance standpoint, it's extremely closer from a traffic standpoint. Now, traffic obviously would change on game days, so I understand that, and I think obviously some major road developments would have to change, and I would be curious to know how Indiana and Illinois would address that, because the toll road itself is not owned. It's owned by a different country. It's not even owned by the state of Illinois or that. Like, so I don't know. Like,
can I jump in on?
Yeah.
Can I jump in on that real quick? Because that was part of this hearing this morning, because I took notes on this. So in terms of the public infrastructure needed and how they're going to pay for this in Indiana, the speaker did mention a renegotiated lease with the Indiana Toll Road would help pay for the infrastructure. And then they're also going to jack up Greg's food and beverage tax in Lake County, Indiana as well. So you have that to look forward to, buddy.
Well, right. I mean, it would. I would hope
innkeeper's tax.
I would hope it'd be renegotiated. Sorry for cutting you off. I would hope it'd be renegotiated, because right now, if I want to take the toll road to the CHGO Sports Studios from my house, there's 3 tolls I've got to get through on that toll road, and it costs me one way $16 from here to the studio. So if I take it both ways, that's $32 on that toll road. It's an insane amount of money. And the idea that Bears fans are going to pay that on top of the parking fees and then a game day fee, there has to be some kind of an adjustment there. And we're also only talking about, in some parts of it, only, it's 4 lanes. I know this kind of gets in the weeds, but there's some parts of the toll road that are 4 lanes. Then there's other parts that are only 2 lanes. And the idea that a whole game day audience, which would fetch, how many, 100,000 fans, like they are really going to have to think about how they're getting people in and out. And you do have the train and the South Shore train coming in and out of there too. But it's going to be really interesting. And ultimately, I still don't understand exactly where they're putting this. I know that you got the Horseshoe Casino. Right next to Wolf Lake is a golf course called Lost Marsh. If you've never played it, it's a fantastic and extremely difficult course. But I still have no idea exactly where they're putting this. It's hard. If they're still going to do the entertainment district that some of these other areas have pitched, which I'm hoping is the case, and not just a stadium kind of dropped into a neighborhood, then I still have questions about where this is going to be. It's going to be interesting to see it unfold. I guess my other question to you, Hogue, is when we talked to Albert Breer at the Super Bowl, he brought up the example of the New England Patriots doing a press conference with a different town and city and saying they were leaving, and then ultimately they didn't. So
I think when you dropped off, we actually addressed that, and
I'm sorry,
I already answered that. So it's all good. So real quick, because we have Hogan Johns coming up in 9 minutes, we're going to continue this discussion over there. But Carm, I do want to get your final thoughts on this emergency pod, and Johns, you as well, before we wrap up this emergency pod. Again, Hogan Johns coming up at 10. We'll continue to cover this, and then Braggs and I are going to be back at 1 o'clock on CHGO Bears, our regular show. So we got plenty of coverage and plenty more to address on all this. But Carm, what do you want to leave with here before you go back to your tennis vacation?
Thank you very much. Look, I just think at the end of the day, this is just not a good day for Bears fans, and I think everybody will get over it. Again, if they win, But look, even when we had the mayor, who I really enjoyed having Brandon Johnson in that conversation, but like we said afterwards, like he was pretty confident that they wouldn't do this, and I was absolutely like I'm kicking myself a little bit today that I wasn't more out there saying that Indiana's going to give him a better deal, man. If I had to bet 51% Hammond, 60% Hammond, I'm pissed at myself because of that because they're making a money deal here, and I do listening, and because I'm hopeful that they stay. I am hopeful that like there's going to be at the 1 inch line, George gets queasy and he doesn't want this to be his legacy. That my mom passed away a year ago and now we're going. And what does George Hallis think and all these things? But at the end of the day, people get over a lot of things in life, and the Bears fans will get over this if in my mind at least, as long as they're winning. If not, maybe that stadium gets a little empty at times. But I appreciate you guys letting me in here. Have a great Hogan Johns. Have a great CHGO Bears. Bears fans out there in the middle and having weird feelings about this, I get it. I am really happy, by the way, that I didn't have to join in for any Tyson Bagent trade rumors, because that was my phone blowing up yesterday with Bagent stuff. It's just everybody settle down. I don't know who that radio guy is out in Arizona. He needs to chill out. All right. Good to see you guys.
See you, Carm. So Carm kind of referenced it a little bit. Like here's my final thoughts on the matter. The Bears, the Chicago Bears, fellas, are operating like a cutthroat business for the first time in since I can remember covering this team. I don't know if that should be applauded, but I think this is them keeping their business interests like in check, in focus, and this is part of the Kevin Warren era. And for like, I'm kind of okay with it. Like, was my family like leaving for school, and I told them, "Oh, I think this Indiana stuff is going to really happen." Like, my sons were incredulous; they were upset. Like, my oldest son said, "You ruined my day," as he's leaving for school. I understand that side of things, but the Chicago Bears are operating with their bottom line in mind, their business interests in mind, and this is cutthroat. This is new for the Chicago Bears, and I don't know if you want to applaud it or just have to recognize it, but this is how they're operating now under Kevin Warren. And I think a lot of Bears fans have been waiting for this in a lot of respects, but this is part of it now. Potential move to Indiana.
Yeah, and I think the last 24 hours and the statement coming from Governor Pritzker's team this morning on them being caught off guard by this news this morning, it kind of illustrates that, and that's going to be interesting to follow here as Indiana and the Bears put the finishing touches on a deal that seems to be at the goal line. All right, we got 2 super chats to end this emergency pod. Again, we're going to continue the conversation over on the Hogan Johns channel because that show was already previously scheduled to be live at 10 a.m. today, so make sure you check that out. Our guy Jonathan Ottenau with a $5 super chat. An hour less trip from my hometown. Cul-de-sac parking, of course, in Braggs' neighborhood, and my season ticket waiting list will evaporate. I'm excited. Carm, cue up some toots. Of course, referring to the Carmonica, the sad Carmonica today, apparently. T Marsh, $10. Let's not overlook how much of a big boy move this is. We lament the Bears acting like a rinky-dink family business instead of a powerhouse. This is big boy stuff. Good for the Bears acting like it, which is basically with the point you just made, Johnson. That is an interesting way to look at it. Yeah, this is, I think, as I said on the show yesterday, and we shared on Twitter later, that little clip from the show yesterday, I think George McCaskey reached the point where he was fed up. Just fed up with Illinois. I was
gonna say one thing that struck me at the end before we got out of here is just all the posturing, like over the past couple weeks, like politicians doing multiple interviews, different sound bites, different outlets reporting on the Bears Stadium, like all the Illinois political machine got going the past couple weeks here. At least that's what I felt, especially given how much the Bears wanted to get going on this years ago.
Yeah. And T Marsh adding $10. This isn't done yet. Seems likely, but not done. Either way, the Bears are actually playing for keeps. Honestly, for the first time in my lifetime, hold the state up, make them own it. Good stuff. Yeah, this is not completely done. But it's certainly way closer to the finish line than where Illinois is. And it'll be interesting to see the response from the Illinois politicians, especially if they're not happy this morning that it feels like the rug was pulled out from under them on the hearing that was scheduled to address the Illinois bill that was needed. And that just didn't even happen today, as they had literally, if you watch the hearing, and I did in Indianapolis, the live stream of it, it was a celebration. There were jokes. The speaker actually misspoke at the beginning and said the Bears were only putting $2 million towards it. And like for 5 minutes, everybody was sort of sitting there like, wait, that's it? $2 million. And then they actually corrected him and everybody had a great laugh. Ha 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 ha. I mean, it was like a party down there at this Ways and Means committee hearing in Indiana. And they were certainly acting like it's a done deal. So we will see. Again, we're going to have a lot more coverage here just a few minutes away on Hogue and Johns. Click over to the Hogue and Johns YouTube channel. That's where that stream will be live. Johns and I will take you. We're also going to fit some draft talk in there because we had Fran Duffy scheduled to join us to talk edge rushers. We're still going to do that on the show. We're just going to push it back a little bit. And then Greg and I will be back at 1 o'clock on CHGO Bears to further the conversation. We may even have a guest or two. I know we're efforting some people to join us, so we'll see how that unfolds in the next couple hours here. Appreciate everybody being here on the Emergency Pod. Hit that like button, subscribe on the way out, click on over to Hogue and Johns, do the same over there. We'll continue the conversation. Talk to you soon.
We all silly like the mayor.